First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the last meeting. If you've had a chance to look those over, I entertain a motion to accept.
Make a motion to approve the minutes last meeting.
Motion by Kissling.
I'll second it.
Second by Bounds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same with the claims from last. We actually have everybody has a copy of those, I believe. So if there's any questions or anything, please address. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Ware.
Second.
Second by Dubois. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? First item on agenda is the additional appropriation for the art money and senior center. I think we discussed it last time that we actually need to have a public notice on that.
Public hearing.
Public hearing on that. So with that in mind, is there anyone that has anything to address as far as that is concerned for the appropriation? Hearing none, I'll close the public notice hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, motion made by Kissling,
I'll second the motion.
second by McFerrin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next would be the ordinance as far as the additional appropriation.
You introduced it 2 meetings ago, so I believe it's 2 meetings ago, so you may adopt it without further reading upon motion.
Trying to get a number here.
Oh. Didn't we introduce? Did we introduce it?
13.
Yeah.
2022-13.
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance number
Adopt.
20.
To adopt.
Adopt ordinance number 2022-13.
Motion made by Bounds,
I'll second it.
second by Ware. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Today we finally, we have roll call for that. Okay, sorry about
Where?
that.
Where?
Aye.
Dubon.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
Bounds.
Aye.
Kissling.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
Next time on the agenda is the senior center update. Obviously, it's been going on for some time now as far as trying to get this taken care of, and today I can finally say that we closed on that building. So we now are in the possession of a building that we're going to turn into a senior center.
Yay.
Thank you.
About time.
That almost deserves a round of applause.
Yes.
Exactly.
The next thing I'm going to skip down to the approval of the ARPA funds plan. I think I sent out something to you all a couple weeks back or before last meeting about the ARPA funds. Basically, we had to have a plan put in place so that we can actually start paying money out of that ARPA fund. The items that are on there obviously are a list of items that we thought were important to kind of continue on with projects we've already started or to new projects. And obviously it doesn't lock us into those projects. If something comes up, we can certainly change it to whatever we need to do. But we got to have approval from the council to go ahead and submit the plan so that we can start using the funds and things for what's the betterment of the citizens of Huntingburg.
So I'm assuming all these fit into the ARPA spending plan?
Yes.
What I need your approval for is that less than $10 million we can do an allowance to not have to detail the revenue replacement. So if we put everything under revenue replacement, we don't have to detail all the other items. So.
Which allows us some flexibility as far as using it.
Yeah, and it's just, it's easier with really no downside to doing that.
If this has 11 projects listed, if we get an additional project or we have funds left over from a project, will that be brought back to the council or will it be necessary to?
Yes, because I would only spend this money on these projects
At that amount?
at these amounts.
Okay.
Right, so we'd have to come back from the
So,
council.
yeah, if there was more money, because, actually, there's going to be a little more money. We found out we got $2,000 more and we're going to get a couple thousand more dollars. Some places didn't accept the money, so it was reallocated to everybody else.
So we didn't mind taking it.
Yeah, it's like an extra $4,000.
And even though it's on here, doesn't necessarily mean we have to spend it.
Correct.
We have to go into it.
But in order to spend it,
It
It has to be on the plan,
Right.
yes.
You have to show it. so.
Right. That's my point.
So the reporting period, the reporting that's due this period, which is at the end of, it's due at the end of this month, it's going to ask a question, do we want to use the entire amount, use that standard deduction for revenue replacement? And I'm putting on here that we are,
Right.
and that's what I recommend.
That's what we recommend, right?
Yeah.
What's the time frame to use this in? 2 years?
In order to spend it, it's the end of 24. Or in order to spend it, it's the end of 26, I think.
2026, so we have to have it spent by 2026.
You have to 2024, you have to have committed.
They haven't committed, I thought,
Right.
that's what you said, Lawrence, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a total of $1,395,653.
Right.
Is that plus the 4,000?
No, that's plus 2,000. I didn't realize we were getting another 2,000. And I'm still not 100% sure that we will.
Until we get it, we haven't put it on there. so.
But it'll be in, I guess the plan would be to see where we are at budget time and then put it in the budget.
And this is the rescue plan
Right.
money,
Yes.
yeah.
We've only got about $6.9 million of it,
Okay.
or 696.
We got the first half.
698,000 of it.
We got the first half of that so far. Next half's coming next time.
Phil, does this require an introduction, or can you go just approve it?
You could approve it, and you can always amend it, but you have to amend it before 2024 if you're going to amend it.
Yeah.
Yes, it
or
has
add
to be
it.
done by 2024.
So all you're doing now is approving this. It's always subject to future amendments.
Is there a motion?
Does it have a number, or?
No, just
just a
approve
resolution.
the
I mean, just a-
ARPA spending plan.
I'll make a motion to approve the AARPA spending plan.
Motion made by McFerrin,
I'll second it.
second by Bounds, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You don't need a roll call for that, do you?
No.
Okay.
But I would like you to take this one and each sign it by your name there.
Oh,
I got a spot for you, yeah.
While I'll sign that, we can kind of move on. There is an ordinance to establish a special fund for our downtown street system. Obviously, we've got several different organizations that want to help pay for this system and also for the streaming service for the monthly fee. In order for us to take the money and put it into account for that purpose, we need to establish an ordinance to set up that fund to do that with. That way we control when it gets done, make sure it gets done and things of that kind with the money that's coming in. So that's the ordinance you have on your board pack, I think there. I'll entertain a motion to establish the ordinance to do that.
It would be introduction of ordinance 2022-15.
So we need a motion to introduce.
I'll make a motion to introduce.
Motion made to introduce by Ware,
I'll second.
second by Kissling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance. Suspend rules to consider the ordinance, right?
Same night as introducing.
Motion to motion to suspend.
Motion made by McFerrin,
I'll second it.
second by Kissling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Now,
May I
motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt the ordinance, please.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Motion made by Ware,
Second.
second by Jose Dubois. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So be it.
Where?
Aye.
Dubon.
Aye.
McFerrin.
Aye.
Bounds.
Aye.
Kissling.
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
And that's 15, right? 2022-15?
Yes,
Right,
15.
right.
A while back, I think we had the park rates that were brought it to the board, I think, and basically there was a couple of amendments that we needed to make on those park rates, or park board rates. I think Justin's here if we need to ask any questions, but I think the amendments to the park pricing had to do with the tours. We dropped the we dropped the weekday rate, or we dropped the price of the weekday rate, right?
Yeah, we created a weekday rate.
Rather than just everything
During
on
more
Sunday.
business during the week.
And then we eliminated the hourly rates because obviously people were trying to take advantage of that situation. So those were the only 3 adjustments to the park pricing. Is that correct, Justin? So with that in mind, we just have a final approval of the city property rentals, basically, is what we're looking for.
I think there's
Yes,
an ordinance to amend the rate, schedule of rates and charges.
2022-16.
16, okay.
And that's in the board back.
The fees are on this other page.
I have a couple questions about
Yeah.
the leagues, the tournaments and stuff like that. So are the tournaments separated from the league tournaments, or is this, you have tournament fees and cleanup fees? I mean, how do you break these down? Is it gonna be per contract, per
Yeah.
deal,
So,
or?
none of those actually changed with the baseball, softball, fields. None of those had changed from the previous ordinance in 2018.
Okay.
So that's per league or per team.
There had at one time been a $500 cap on, I'm familiar with the softball program, but a $500 cap on the league play, 50 a team, up to 500. And if they had more teams than that, 500 was still the cap. I don't see any reference to that in here, but
I can address that, Jeff. When we decided to do the fields, the new fields down there, they agreed to take the cap off to give us some extra money to help pay for the new fields that we're putting in. So,
okay.
Okay.
But all the league boards were aware of that.
Yes, I addressed both of those leagues as far as the mayor, the youth council league, the youth league, as well as the softball league. Yes.
Okay. All right, good.
Any other questions? I entertain a motion to accept the adjustments.
Introduce an ordinance.
We have to do that first for the ordinance?
Well, the ordinance does adopt the
It
schedule.
already does that?
Yes,
Okay.
it does, yeah.
Okay. So we need a motion for that.
Motion to introduce 2022-16. Or is this, I'm
That's correct.
introducing it, right?
Introducing it.
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Ware. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to suspend, right?
Correct.
Have a motion to suspend.
I'll make a motion to suspend.
Motion made by Ware,
I'll second it.
seconded by Bounds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to accept, right?
Correct. Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt verse
Adopt by-
2022-16.
Motion by Kissling,
Second the motion.
second by McFerrin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Ware?
Aye.
Dubon?
Aye.
McFerrin?
Aye.
Bounds?
Aye.
Kissling?
Aye.
5 ayes, no nays.
Paul, Mr. Lake. Would you like to give us your name and your position?
Planning Director.
Shortstop.
There we go. Perfectly challenged. You have before you tonight, I believe it was in your board pack, the annual compliance form that goes along with tax abatement approvals for both real and personal property tax abatement. In this case, it's the real property tax abatement that the council approved for the Wagon Works project back in 2019. What happens is the compliance form is filed with us as well as the county auditor, just to verify that any benefits, investment, job creation, and wages, as an example, that were promised in the statement of benefits at the time of the tax abatement approval have in fact been met or are substantially in compliance. That's the trigger. This form and the deduction form are the trigger that started the tax abatement deductions for the wagon works. Historically, if you miss a year filing your deduction form or the CF1, you're not going to get the deduction that year. And that happened last year with Wagon Works. There was a mix-up on their part in terms of getting deduction forms in the CF1. So they lost that first year's deductions. This will pick them up in year 2.
So are they capped on their deduction by appraisal, or is it capped?
This one is not capped. It was initially approved by the council as a capped tax abatement, and then the petitioner came back with their attorneys and discussed it. Because of difficulty in the bond market at the time, the cap was taken off, so it's a 10-year, 100% real property tax abatement deduction.
But they've lost 1 year because they failed to file.
So now they're gonna get 9?
Yes. In terms of, they had anticipated 56 units, that's what they developed. A little over $8 million in investment. Actual was a little over $8 million investment. Positions, they said 2 actual have been created, and I'm assuming those are both part-time positions. Wages for that is about $61,000 versus the $54,000 that was anticipated at the statement of benefits time.
Have you heard any comments about their occupancy?
I haven't heard what the current occupancy rate is. I know that they have kept it fairly full from people I've talked to, but I can get that answer and relay that to the council members via email tomorrow.
Be interesting to know.
So my recommendation is that they be found to be in substantial compliance with the statement of benefits.
Okay.
So we need a motion to accept?
Yes, yes.
I have a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion by Ware,
I'll second the motion.
second by McFerrin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much. Tom has the original for signature, so
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bill, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay.
It's 35 grand.
Oh, I do, I guess I do. Or is that Tom's? I'm sorry. The addendum to the,
Originally, and we,
Yeah,
That's Tom's.
That's Tom's, or I
Okay.
can do it either way.
there's any message on it.
Tom, you want me to do that, or you want to do it?
I'll just, I think at the last meeting, you talked about changing the protective footwear from 100 every 2 years to, or 200 every 2 years to 200 every year. And this addendum that you have, it kind of puts it in the form that we've been doing addendums to the handbook. It also says that it will begin on January 1 of 2023.
So I think we made it for the calendar year, January 1st to December 31st. We weren't going to backtrack it or anything this kind. We were going to bring it forward, starting as January 2023, so it can be budgeted and things of this kind. So in the meantime, they're still operating under the old policy until January 2023, correct? Okay.
Yeah, because all the department heads had their budgets are already set for this year, so.
Yeah. So with that, I'll entertain a motion for the addendum.
Motion for the addendum footwear.
Motion by Kissling.
I'll second it.
Second by Bounds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, Tom, is yours the office surplus equipment. or surplus-
Now you have a list of a few items. I don't know if you noticed when I come in, we had, the utility billing office was all tore up today, and it's put back together today.
Nice.
So took 1 day to get all that in, but in that process, there are some desks that are that I'd like to be declared surplus and then authorized to sell. They're less than $1,000. Nothing is singly more than 1,000, and actually the total is less than 1,000.
So have we had the surplus sale for the city yet?
Yeah, it's already been taking place. We'd have to store them until the next time.
Okay.
Or let's get somebody, find somebody that wants to buy them, yeah.
so you can, if the total of all the assets is less than $1,000, you can authorize the department head, or in this case Tom, to sell on the open market in any commercially reasonable manner. Essentially, however he feels he can get the best
Whoever
price for it.
chooses, yeah.
So long as it's total under $1,000.
What,
I would that be your preference? To go ahead and move them now? Sell them now and not have to store?
oh, I don't know, but it would always just give me the option to do it.
Yeah. I think if we could sell them, obviously it takes up less space and they're not going to just
I
sit
mean,
there and
if
deteriorate.
you have to stay out there
someplace.
until the next auction,
Yeah, where'd you keep them?
they're already
At the street department.
declared surplus. so.
Everything's in the street department, right?
Got the most room.
I assume there's no other departments in the city can use some of it?
They would probably already asked for them.
Yeah, and if they can,
Yeah.
that's fine too.
Yeah. I mean, we might be able to take it down to the park department. I don't know, they could use a few things down there, obviously.
I think we should offer it internally to other departments first and.
Right.
I think they've looked at them and,
They've all nodded. I think they've seen
Kind of
them.
wore out already.
yeah, but,
All right.
but yeah, that's,
I question your ability to sell it if they haven't taken it in.
but just a motion to declare them surplus and authorize me to sale.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by McFerrin,
I'll second it.
second by Bounds, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
That's all I have.
Any other council items? Hearing none. Citizens items. Before we get started, just preface this as far as obviously, there was a motion, I guess, several months ago now, to purchase a property on Main Street that the council voted to purchase with the idea that they wanted to make parking in that particular area. Prior to us doing anything, we were contacted by Mr., is it Sakula? Did I say that right? Okay. Greg. He wanted to have an opportunity to talk with you all about what he thought what we should do with a piece of property, I guess, for lack of a better putting it. So I have asked him to come this evening and be on the agenda so he could present that to the council members. So with that, if you would like to come to the podium and basically give your name and where you're from, and then that way we kind of know who you are. So.
Sure. Get these out here. Good afternoon, Mayor Schwinghammer and members of the City Council. My name is Greg Sakula. I'm the Southern Regional Director of Indiana Landmarks. We are a statewide nonprofit historic preservation organization. Been around since 1960. I direct the Southern Regional Office, which covers a 14-county area, which includes Dubois County. We've had a long history of involvement here in Huntingburg over the years, from our early advocacy with the Old Town Hall project. We were also strong advocates for the creation of the historic district downtown here along 4th Street. Have provided funding for studies when, for example, the Brett's building burned several years ago and Joe Helming took on that project. That was a project we helped provide some feasibility study analysis of after that fire. Have certainly helped with some other projects. The Killian House down on Main Street was another building that was threatened several years ago and played a role in helping to get that building saved. So we've seen and had a Friday is my 20th anniversary working with Indiana Landmarks. So for the last 20 years I've been visiting your community and working with folks, several of whom are here and a couple of whom have left us. I think fondly of Judy Olinger, who, as you know, was one of the early pioneers of support for preservation here in this community. And I remember days when she was up on the the bucket truck painting facades on her own initiative to spur interest in architecture here. And she and Judy Rolliter and Joe Rolliter and Christine Pryor and others were very instrumental early on in bringing awareness for historic preservation here in Huntingburg. You've got a beautiful community. I think one of the things that, as I cover my 14-county region, I can think of a handful of communities that I think have largely done it right and have a great deal of charm and have been great stewards of their historic properties, and I would put Huntingburg in that top list. Why I'm here tonight is that I am concerned, however, with recent acquisition by the city of the property at 405 Main Street and the discussion about potential demolition of that house. One of the things that I provided in the packet to you was a copy of what's called our Indiana Historic Sites and Structures Inventory for Dubois County. And that includes in there, on the first page, you'll see a kind of Huntingburg scattered sites, and identified in some shading are some of the areas in the community that were identified as historic districts or historic district potential in the community. And the community moved forward, as you know, and spearheaded an effort to get the downtown commercial district on the National Register, which has been, I think, a real benefit for the community. However, there are other areas in the downtown area in particular that have also been recognized as National Register eligible. And that includes a fairly large residential district that kind of hugs the downtown corridor, of which the house at 405 Main Street is considered a contributing structure to that district. If you look on kind of, I think, the last page of that district, I put a little asterisk on the structure address there at 405. It's number 97 in the inventory of about 103 resources. And the C that you see at the end of the building denotes what's called a contributing status. So buildings that are considered outstanding, notable, or contributing are buildings that contribute to the historic character of the neighborhood and are considered significant structures to kind of telling the story and establishing the character of the neighborhoods. One of the things that is so critically important from a planning standpoint, and I kind of wear the lens of a planner, having been a municipal planner myself for 13 years in both North Carolina and Missouri, so I advise councils on preservation matters as a city employee, is the importance of kind of maintaining that connectivity of buildings to the street and to the sidewalk, and the character that provides a community. You're very fortunate here in that many of your neighborhoods are still very intact, and you don't have a large number of vacant lots and parking lots that kind of erode that sense of character. However, your Main Street has suffered from some of those losses over the years. And you can kind of just think about walking down Main Street, particularly South Main Street, just south of 4th Street. You've got a fairly large block there where you've got a large concentration of vacant lots, parking areas, and no buildings that front the road. Likewise, on North Main, if you go to the side where the Methodist Church is, aside from the church and just a couple houses, basically from 4th Street all the way up to the main intersection there at the street light, you've lost a great deal of your fabric. So you've got this sort of sense of vacant lots and a loss of connectivity in your community. The block on the 400 block of Main is one of your strongest blocks from an architectural standpoint that really helps to establish the character of your downtown area and your approach into your Main Street. It's also a way to entice people because of the architecture with kind of interest to get them hopefully to veer off 231 and onto 4th Street and to explore the community. If you start to lose those types of structures, you really become kind of just a pass-through, and you don't invite people to come in and explore the historic nature of your community. And the house at 405 is a really interesting study. I've included some pictures there. The mayor was gracious enough to give me a tour of the house about a month ago. I think it was his first time in the house. We both went in. And I was pleasantly surprised as to the condition of this building. Yes, it needs some TLC. It's been a rental unit, actually 2 units. So the stairway up to the 2nd floor has been closed off, and you've got the wear and tear that you would typically see with a residential unit that's been occupied. But structurally, I found the building to be in very good condition, and I've worked with a lot of buildings over the last 20 years, many of which are in very poor condition that we've been able to save. But this building is really in very good shape overall. Beautiful oak floors, original trim, some of the original elongated windows. One of the real surprises and discoveries that we had when we went through the house is that, as you know, the house on the outside has aluminum siding. Well, when we were inside and started investigating the house, I noted some plaster deterioration on the front wall in the left-hand side room. Well, upon further investigation, we determined that the house is actually a brick house. The first floor of this house is solid masonry. And if you go around all of the exterior walls of the building on the first floor, you will find that they are all solid brick walls. At some point, probably around 1930, late 1930, early 1940, I think this house was probably remodeled. And at that time, they added a second floor to the structure. It probably was originally a one-story building, similar to the Killian house down the block, which, if you're familiar with that, is a one-story structure. The interim report, this document suggests that it's a circa 1865 era building, and the front elongated windows on the front give that kind of suggestion as well. But what was remarkable was the fact that this indeed was a brick structure, and actually underneath the aluminum there's even wood siding which is over the original brick. So this building has a story to tell, and I think could very well be one of the earliest structures in the community. Given its close proximity to the center of town, that would certainly support that theory. What's also interesting is that it's primarily under a crawl space, but there's a fairly large, deep basement room in the structure. And actually, if you go into that basement, which has about an 8-foot ceiling, there's actually a steel beam that has been inserted that's embedded in the wall that helps to support the floor system on the right-hand side first floor room. And then beyond that, there's actually a doorway that goes into an enclosed concrete block room that's actually outside of the footprint of the house. If you were to walk on the property, you'll see a kind of a concrete slab with a manhole. That is actually over the top of a room that is outside the footprint of the house. So I'm not sure what the purpose of that would have been. It's too big for a kind of a coal chute room, but there is indeed an underground structure down there. The basement was very dry, very sound, the brick wall structure, the floor system is very good. The building, I think, is a candidate for preservation. It is a historic building. And one of the things I would urge you to consider is the idea of retaining the house where it is, and if your intent, your desire is to develop parking, to consider developing a parking area back behind the house, and then to consider maybe leasing the house to someone who would put some sort of business in the house to enhance your retail activity downtown. I think the house would make a great coffee shop, deli. I know there had been a retail establishment in it at one time, but the building, I think, could be a nice contribution to the downtown. Does it need some TLC? Yes. It needs some painting. It needs some attention to the windows. But the inside, I think, could be turned around pretty quickly given its condition. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to go through the building. But, you know, looking at it, I looked at your city ordinance. I looked at, you know, how many parking spaces could you get on this lot? And based on the ordinance read, I estimated anywhere between 40 and 42 parking spaces based on your parking standards for the city. You paid $155,250 for the property. If you demolish the building, that's at least another $10,000, maybe more, $1,000. With that alone, assuming, say, a $10,000 demolition, you're about $4,000 per parking space to create this parking, and you have not even yet developed the parking lot. So the cost, I think, is significant to do this. As a planner, you know, one of the things we encourage in downtown, and having worked in New Bern, North Carolina, which is a historic community in eastern North Carolina, St. Joseph, Missouri, another community where I worked as a preservation planner as well. One of the kind of the principles of urban design with downtown was always try to locate your surface parking lots in your downtown areas in the inner parking lots of blocks, and basically keep your buildings edges intact. So the idea is concentrate parking in the center of the lot, center of the block, and then people can walk out. The mayor has indicated that you're looking at abandoning the alley there back behind 405 and making that into a pedestrian linkage, which would link all the way up to your historic gym onto 4th Street. I think that's a very good move and something that a lot of urban planning is doing right now. I've seen this in many communities in which I've worked. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. It would take some time and effort, but there's a lot of underutilized land and partially developed parking back behind many of the properties there that are on that 400 block of 4th Street. And I think if you could get everyone together and work out some sort of creative way to develop parking in the interior of the block, that would hopefully ameliorate some of the maybe parking concerns that folks have indicated, are concerned for downtown. In the 20 years I've been here, and granted I'm here mostly during the week, but sometimes on the weekends, I have never had an issue finding a parking spot on 4th Street. And I've been here at all times of the day. There's, I think, oftentimes there's a perceived lack of parking. Many people will tell you, downtown folks, that having a parking problem in your downtown is a good thing to have because that means people are coming to your downtown. So, I just would urge you to think creatively about saving the building. I know you now own it, so I'm not suggesting necessarily to sell it, because I know you wanted to have control of that area behind it. But I do think you could think of creative ways to lease the building. Offer a very attractive lease arrangement with someone to entice them to put a business in there and say, we want you, we'll give you a lease for $1 a year for the next 10 years in exchange for you investing your funds to repair the building and bring it up to the standards that we want to see it brought up to. And get a thriving business in that particular location. Anyway, so that's my pitch to you today. I appreciate your time. I know there's some others here who I think share similar thoughts, who would like to have the opportunity to speak. But I just urge you to not demolish the building and to look at ways of saving this, because it's part of your heritage. As I said, this building is a building that needs further study, because I think it could be very significant, particularly since it's revealing itself behind some of those hidden layers there underneath. So once it's gone forever, and we can't bring it back. So anyway, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate you being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Greg was actually the only one that got on the agenda legally. Just a minute, Joe. Just a minute. Okay. The agenda was set up as of Friday. Had to be there, but because it's a citizen's item, we're going to open it up to any citizen that wants to come up and talk. But we will actually to kind of limit it to a little bit as far as timelines is concerned. So, Joe, if you want to get up and speak, please address yourself.
I thought I jumped too early.
No, you jumped a little bit before I had to finish with what I was saying.
Yeah, because I did.
That happened before occasionally.
I did call.
Well, but it wasn't on Friday.
Oh.
The agenda has to be set a couple days ahead of time, but that's okay. But we open up to anybody. But please state your name and where you live,
Okay,
please.
Joe Rolliner, husband of Judy Rolliner. You might know her better than me for sure.
And you live where? You live where? Where do you live?
Where?
Yeah, that's why I asked your name and where you live, please.
Joe Rolliner. I live in Jasper.
Okay.
We have a shop here in Huntingburg. First of all, I want to thank you people for doing what you're doing. It's a non-thankful job, and you do a lot of good work with making good decisions for Huntingburg to make it a good place to live and also shop. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about about us. We came here in 1995 and bought our first shop, and we had 5 buildings that we've dealt with on 4th Street. We came here in 95 because of the potential of the historic downtown. And from that building, we also were in partnership with the old City Hall across the street. They were going to tear it down and put a parking lot. Well, we ended up with that being sold, and it's an ideal exchange now with a parking lot behind it. It sure looks better than a parking lot would be. We also bought and purchased the Ruck building. That's where Mama T's is. When we purchased that, the floor in the front was gone. It rotted out. It was a dirt floor. We restored that building, and now I think it's pretty good use. You know, Joe Helming, who purchased the building next to our other shop, he could have tore that building down. He put a lot of money and effort in restoring that building. It could have been like, if you go into some towns, you see a building, and then you see a lot empty in between. That's what that could have been, which would be ugly. Also, we ended up on the corner of 4th, that's where Judy has a shop now, and that was the old bank building, and restored that. Just to give you a background, but if you look up Huntingburg on the internet, it says Huntingburg is a charming community known for the historic downtown district and 4th Street that includes a number of quaint shops and unique dining. I don't think tearing down this home in a historic district is helping to maintain what we set out to be, a historic district. So you think you could save that home, maybe you could have your ice cream and eat it too, you know, because the building could be saved and leased, and then a parking lot put in the back. There's quite a bit of room back there. And then we need signage for people to get there. And the alleyways, you're trying to dress up so people have a walkway. I think that's a great idea. The parking lots coming in from the south end of town do not look very good. Maybe something could be done to work with the people that own them, or you could help out with redoing those parking lots and get some parking places in it. Right now, it's not very inviting to go in those parking lots. But anyway, you have made many decisions, and you are good at making decisions, so we hope that you can come up with some other better idea than what you're thinking about. The only thing I can tell you, I've been involved in a lot of different preservation things, and if you want to see what a place looks like with a parking lot with a building down, just get a hold of me, I'll show you one. You tell me it looks pretty. Anyway, do you have any questions you want to ask me?
I have one. Both you and, I'm terrible with names, Greg
Yes.
mentioned parking lots to the south. Are you, which lots are you
We're talking about the
referring?
buildings on the south side of 4th Street, and behind them,
In front of a Huntingburg Machine Works.
Machine
It's a
Works.
private lot.
And
In
then,
front of Machine Works, is that's what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay.
plus the building, and behind some of the buildings, there's some room for parking. I know
Behind the
behind these-
buildings that face 4th Street.
Those buildings the buildings that face 4th Street.
Okay.
Maybe something, I mean,
I'm trying to get a grasp on what was perceived as unattractive, you know, okay.
yeah.
And
Plus,
I get where you're coming from. I just want to make sure that I was
Right.
getting a clear message. I mean, you know, I'm thinking of the funeral home parking lot or something, and I'm thinking, I don't know how to deal with that. But I see where you're coming because it's right close to our downtown area.
and you purchased over here a lot and tore down a home, right?
I think it's that way.
Jackson.
Right behind it.
I think it's that
Right
way,
behind,
No,
yeah.
it's behind.
right here.
Highway, Steve.
And
Huh?
you,
Yeah, there.
you
Right.
would, I mean, I don't know what you plan on doing with that. Maybe you're gonna make parking there. You know, when I go to a place like Noblesville, have you ever been there?
Mhm.
Okay, you don't expect to have good parking. You know, and you don't mind walking a little piece because they have a great historic downtown, just like we do. You know, so, I don't, you know, our parking on 4th Street, I'm concerned about too. I would not mention what I want to say. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
My name's Christine Pryor. I'm a resident of Huntingburg. I actually live downtown. And a few weeks ago, Greg Sakula had called me and asked me if I knew anything about the purchase at 405. And I didn't, so looked into a few things, and Greg and I spent some time with the mayor and talked to him. But previously, I had actually been the Chamber and the Foundation Director for the City of Huntingburg. During my time at that, we actually put the downtown on the historic register. We met with property owners, we talked to them, we talked about the benefit that that designation would have for the economy of our downtown, and that is why the downtown is branded as historic Huntingburg. If you go up and down the interstate, you see the signs that say Shop Historic Huntingburg. You look at all of the advertisement and it's Shop Historic Huntingburg. And it's not Shop 4th Street, it's Historic Huntingburg. And as people are coming into our downtown, they need that connection. They need to see that we are historic and it's not just 4th Street. It is the beautiful homes that we have here. When I was working at the chamber, one day I got a call from a young lady who said that she was taking an executive position at Kimball, and the realtor had shown her all around Jasper because she had come from Louisville through Ferdinand to Jasper, and on the way home he had sent her through Huntingburg to hit the interstate. Well, while she was on the interstate, she called me and asked me to give her the name of a realtor because her realtor had never shown her Huntingburg. And driving through the quaint downtown, she wanted to live in Huntingburg, and she lives on Geiger Street now. So it is that image that we have of a quaint, connected downtown that brings people here. And as we are looking to attract our young people back, we need to have an image that they want to see. And they are not going to say, oh look, they've got great parking lots in downtown Huntingburg. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for that character. They're looking for that experience. If you take the alleyway that runs behind the homes there, that front Main Street, those lots are very deep. You can make that a wonderful walkway from Memorial Parking, the gym. You know, when we have events there, invite them downtown. You have hundreds of people that come to that gymnasium, but there is no signage that says, you're a block away from our main district. Come downtown and shop between your games. Come downtown and eat. There needs to be better signage so that you're bringing them. I noticed that recently you permanently closed the alleyways. So now is the time to really look at that behind the scenes parking and make sure that we are connecting those people that can walk on the streets and come down to our downtown. You've got this heritage trail that people have been talking about. I'm not even sure where it's at. But if we're thinking about mobility in our downtown, make people walk. That's good for them. It's good for their health. And connect them and let them know where the parking spaces are. A couple weeks ago, I drove downtown. Beautiful sunny day. Perfect day to be shopping. I counted 17 empty parking spaces between Geiger and Jackson. And then Geiger and Jackson between 3rd and 5th were basically empty. So do we really need another parking lot? And do we need another parking lot there that fronts Main Street and then will cause problems with people coming out of it and people turning off of 4th Street to go north? then you're gonna have congestion there. So if you're gonna put parking there, put it behind that building, save the building, lease it for our commercial unit, and make sure that we preserve our history while still maintaining our character.
Thanks, Christine. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Thank you all for coming.
I'd like to say, I'm glad there are people in the community that can see things that I can't. When I took a tour of the building, and I mean this with all due respect, this is not my area of expertise. I didn't see what y'all saw inside the building. I can imagine it would take a lot of money, a lot of effort to bring that building up to a stature where people would drive by and say, wow, look at that. Because I don't get that now. I don't see that wow factor when I drive by that building at the moment. And so for that reason, I thank you guys for coming and at least illuminating the possibility that that building could be. For me personally, I can't speak for the rest of the council or the mayor, but one of the biggest complaints that I hear is downtown parking and the lack of it. I've never personally had a problem parking my F-150 on 4th Street, but I hear that complaint all the time. And so it's refreshing, actually, to hear people say that parking isn't a problem. I don't hear that very often. In fact, I never have heard it. All it ever comes to us is how big of a problem parking is on and around 4th Street. And so I have to just say our motivation was to try to alleviate that problem. None of us are anti-historic building. We're all trying to alleviate the problem that people keep coming to us with about the lack of parking. And I've heard people say, well, I don't go to 4th Street anymore because I have to walk so far to get there. I mean, I've heard the Walmart example, how far you got to walk to get to the milk case at Walmart, right? But so we have ways to overcome that argument, but we hear it all the time. And so Greg and Christine and Joe, we've, appreciate you bringing this to our attention. I'm not sure what to do with it. It's not, the city of, I don't think wants to be in the rental business or in the leasing business. In order for this decision to be changed, we need more information, we need more ideas, we need money. There's going to have to be more discussion, a lot more, about how to make something like this happen.
And I think that's what we're asking. Before you demolish the building, let's think about it. Because as the chamber director, 14 years ago, because it's been 14 years since I've been the chamber director, you heard the same thing. We don't have enough parking. We don't have enough parking. And I would deal with it, and when we had special events, I'd go downtown, I'd look, and part of that problem is a perceived parking, because people don't know where to park. They sit there and they say, oh, I want to go to this store, and they don't know that, okay, if you go around the block and you enter through that alleyway, there's a parking space. So I think a lot of it is signage. The other thing is clear definition of where that parking is, because the lot that is right there in front of Machine Works, I know it's a private lot, but let's face it, if people are going to come down to shop, they're going to park there, right? They're not going to say, oh, it's a private lot, I can't park there. So work with them to make sure that the parking spaces are clearly identified, so you don't have somebody that parks right in the middle of it and then takes up 4 spaces when you start to look at it. Do something so that there is some green space in those parking areas so that it is attractive and not just a vacant paved area, because in my line of work, I read a lot of studies and so forth, and they will tell you that vacant lots and paved surfaces are unwelcoming environments. And we have worked so hard to make historic Huntingburg a place for people to come that adding another paved, empty lot is going to deteriorate that image versus building it up. And so I think for the long term, trying to think creatively, and I really do think you've got a lot of space in those alleyways that is not used appropriately, just because they were alleys and nobody took any notice of them. But now that you have permanently closed them, for example, the one between Geiger and 231, it's mostly rock. It's not even paved, so nobody's gonna walk through there. You've got barricades up, and I realize that there's some construction going on in that area. But as you are looking at it and you know you're going to have to clean it up eventually, think about how you can make that a good space for people to walk through. Think about the space by the bank building here between 231 and Jackson. There again, it's been closed down. I know that, you know, the overtime is closed, but make that so that it is an attractive walkway between the gymnasium and 4th Street. When I ran the chamber, I used to go to the games on Saturdays, and I would hand out flyers. And how many times did I hear people say, I didn't even know we were that close to your downtown. They were looking for the gymnasium and didn't even see the downtown. So put signage down there that says, hey, while you're parked here at the gymnasium in between matches, walk up to 4th Street, go get something to eat, something to drink, purchase a special gift for someone. It's all about signage and making sure we're marketing things correctly. And I think in the long run, if you tear down that building, you are deteriorating the brand of Huntingburg versus adding to it.
Greg,
We also have some churches, you know, the Methodist Church has a large parking lot that obviously is used on Sundays and maybe, you know, a couple nights a week, but during the day, on the weekday, on Saturdays, these parking lots are empty. We've got a church here just south of 4th Street on Jackson that's got a fairly large parking lot. You know, is there an opportunity to work with the churches and maybe, you know, do some sort of lease that gives them a little bit of income to use it, work through those areas, but allow people to use those parking lots as well for parking because they're existing already. You know, as we deal with climate change and just the, you know, we don't want to be seeing more and more asphalt and less pervious area here with rainfall and drainage and all those other things. So, you know, I think there's creative opportunities.
Did you put any thought to if the house or if the structure stayed, how many parking spaces would there still be? Like what could you fit behind the building?
Yeah, I think it looked like you might lose maybe 4 to 6 parking spaces for the house itself. Not any more than that. As I said, I calculated about 42 parking spaces with the house gone. So, you know, you might be at 38 if you left the house where it is. You know, is there a way to...
This angled, or how did you?
No, I did perpendicular parking in the 9 by 18 parking space, a 24-foot aisle. The lot is presently about 62.5 feet wide by, I think, 200 feet deep. And the ordinance requires a 10-foot buffer on either side and on the front. I didn't include one on the back just because of the alley. But, you know, I kind of calculated all those dimensions, so it ended up being like a 42 by 150 foot lot. And then, you know, based on those calculations, I could still get a 24-inch or 24-foot aisle with the 9 by 18 parking spaces on each side.
And then you've got 407 Main, which is around the corner, and most of their back is parking as well. So if you can find a way to attractively combine those, you may pick up those other 4 spaces. So again, it's thinking creatively instead of just saying, oh, we'll buy that house, tear it down, and put in a parking lot. And if we can do that all along that alley, because all of those lots are really, really deep. there might be the potential that there could be some public parking all along that alleyway.
Also, I think you're creating a parking lot right here behind this building on Jackson, across from the post office. So, you know, once that lot's created, you know, will that alleviate and satisfy some of the parking concerns initially? You know, that's something to think about. Maybe get this lot done and kind of see how that works out.
There's issues with drop-off, supply drop-off to businesses, not wanting to block 4th Street
Yeah.
with trucks. And it's not very conducive behind the buildings. The alleys are so small, so narrow. And so UPS drivers and box truck drivers have a hard time navigating. If they're not allowed on 4th Street itself to park and unload, then there's got to be other places for them to do it, and that's part of the motivation as well.
If you can put one of the parking spaces that is designated as shipping and receiving, you know, you don't have to have that house gone. Again, in that parking area behind the building, you could designate one, and if the alley is cleaned up and paved, they can get a cart down it to the different stores. So again, I think it's thinking creatively and not just.
We're going to need some creative minds. Okay.
Is there money, it always comes to money, but is there grants, is there programs to study the
Yes.
validity of what you're talking about?
Yes.
I mean,
And
put a
historic
name on it.
preservation, there's money for that, there's no money for parking lots.
We don't have parking lot money?
No. And even with your ARPA money, if you tear down that house, it's federal money, you'll have to do a section 106.
What?
Landmarks might be able to provide a small grant to help get someone to help design, you know, kind of look at it and come up with some plan to save the house and achieve some of the concerns that you've got. I mean, we could look at that. I don't know, you know, we're a designated stellar community. I don't know if there's any opportunities because of that designation. You know, the concept of stellar was, you know, you had a period of time with resources, but the idea was that it was going to be a continuing relationship with some of the state agencies to kind of look at that. To me, this seems like it's a natural way. Okay, let's bring in some of the expertise from the stellar community to look at it, given your designation, and look. And we could help
Did they
do
just
some
stop on
investigation.
4th Street? Did they not look to how to connect 4th Street to the adjoining?
We talking about Stellar?
Yeah. I mean, there was a plan,
Stellar, we had to
right?
lay out particular projects, and they were, you know, and they had boundaries and things like, this is what, because there was only, you know, so much money, and you had to basically win them over on each of your projects.
Okay.
You know, the park was a project, 4th Street was a project, and there were several others.
But was there an overall downtown plan that once you did the park and you did this new 4th Street, how that connected to the adjoining area?
Well, that comes under the comprehensive plan, not the Stellar plan.
Okay.
So, and obviously, the Stellar money is gone, I've just
Oh,
thrown
yeah.
that out there, so.
That's a one and done.
That's a
but-
one and done thing, so I think we've heard a lot of information this evening. Glenn, do you have something
Who
to
currently
say?
owns the Brett's building? The picture 101 at 415.
The federal style house, yeah.
Yeah, who?
Is that the Killian House, is that what we called
The
it?
old Killian House?
Yes.
Yeah.
We sold it a few years ago. Joe,
Nick Fisher.
Fisher?
Okay.
Fisher owns it.
So what are they gonna do with it?
Yeah, what's going in there?
I know,
He's
I've
been
talked to him fairly recently, and
He's working on the
he's
inside.
been working on the, sent me some pictures. I mean, they've got some, you know, new drywall. He's been working on the inside and said that this summer he was hoping to get back. He had some health issues within his family and with the pandemic. He had some issues there, but he has been working on the inside.
The only thing I could see is if this thing has such, if it's a diamond in the rough, as everybody says, if we can get a private investor to come and purchase it from us, work with us, but we don't have that private investor, and we don't have the money.
Well, I think we've heard a lot of information this evening. I
Right.
think basically the council has already made a decision, but that doesn't mean we have to rush right into that decision as far as that type of thing is concerned. So
Right.
I think under the circumstances, we're just going to table it at this point. It's up to you guys. Obviously, I'm just going to make that recommendation. And then obviously, if we can get more information to make you understand differently or something, or change your mind, I guess, then obviously that would be a situation where we'd have to vote on it at that point. But right now, it still stands as it is, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and as we're saying right now, we just want you to put some effort into thinking about other ways to use this property.
Well, we'll pledge to help creatively try to find solutions as well. We're not just putting it back at you. We want to be a part of the solution, not just acknowledging our concerns, so.
Just so you know too, I mean, just as you were mentioning the fact of the alleyways and things, I think, Christie, I think we already talked about that we were already in the process of doing all those things that you recommended anyway, so that's not something that's not on the table already, so as far as making it better for people to come through with signage and things of that kind, so.
But let me do some checking and with some of the agencies and resources that I know and see if there might be an opportunity to get someone here to do some sort of planning and evaluation of the parking issue and come up with a plan that could work, that might achieve the objectives that you're discussing.
What does your destination Huntingburg, they should have a design committee, what are they working on? Are they, because I know historic preservation should be one of their elements.
Since I'm not part of that destination, I can't answer that for you. But like I said before, I think that's kind of the best way to leave it this evening, if you all agree with that type of thing. So at this point, nothing's going to really be done other than the fact that we'll weigh the ideas that we can get to come up with, and right now everything stands as is until we decide otherwise, right?
May I ask what the timetable is for this parking lot here on Jackson?
When we get our money, we'll let you know.
Okay, all right, so.
No.
It's going to be funded with some of the ARPA money that they
Yes.
approved tonight,
Yes.
We don't have the money though.
but we don't have it all yet, yeah.
All right, well, I appreciate you all coming.
I haven't spoke yet, so I better go up here and introduce
Well, yeah,
myself.
because we're getting ready to adjourn.
My name's falling asleep.
And your name and where you live, please.
Drew Englert. I live in Jasper,
Okay,
right across from where the library just came down.
okay.
You all use these every day?
Mostly?
Getting back to Christine's idea of finding parking, you've probably traveled and you've maybe been on the interstate and thought, where's the next gas station? You pull this up and find the next nearest gas station, right? You come into Huntingburg and you might look up for the directory on here to find places to eat or shop. That directory for parking in Huntingburg can also be electronically found. If you get that on the city website, people will look, well, where can we park here? And it could be behind that house and keep the house there. They'll find it if it's here, and you all use this every day. You're searching constantly. I was looking on the phone, as you saw, and I was looking at this particular property and the size of it. So you can pull that up on the county GIS and you'll see it, and exactly how Greg talked. It's 62 feet wide, so you got about 40-some feet to use, and it's 50 feet, I guess, along the alley on the south edge of the property until it gets to Mr. Schwinghammer's property. You got a little corner back there?
Right.
Yeah. The other side's a little wider with access directly to the alley. But utilizing the back part of that, I think, is a smart way to do that. And signing, but then also get your parking all the way around the town, the public parking, get it posted on your visitor website.
Good idea, thank you.
Thank you.
With that in mind,
I do real estate, so everybody, 90-some% of people start their real estate search online.
I try to get rid of this every day. What are you talking
70%
about?
start them with the phone, so anytime they come to Huntingburg, they're gonna use their phone and they can find parking.
That house could be sold, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion. Then
Parking lot.
Make a motion to adjourn.
motion by Ware to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Second by everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody,
Appreciate
for
you
coming.
coming.
Appreciate you coming.